What is going on? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to your Healing Journey Live. I am your grief guide, Ernest James, mental health advocate and grief guide, bringing you once again, coming in for this live of your Healing Journey Live. Thank you all for joining me, everyone that is turned in and everyone that is going to tune in. Definitely thank you guys for tuning in and being a part of this live. So really quickly, again, let me say thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for tuning in with me. As I work this computer, let me just do a couple of things. Hold on 1 minute. Here we go. Boom. I'm going to do that. Yeah. All right. So again, let me say thank you guys to all of you guys that has tuned in to this is our fourth one. Let me get this straight. This is our fourth Your Healing Journey live that I've done. I had to cancel last week because I had some things come up that were just unfortunate, and even this week because life be life, right? So even right now, we're supposed to go live at 4:00, and right when I'm finna go live, I want to get a knock at the door. The maintenance people is here to check out some things, and so that made me come on a little later. So we're almost like 20 minutes late coming on at 4:00 as we usually would do. But we're here. We're here for you. We're here to support you on this journey that we are on, which is your healing journey. Again, my name is Ernest James. I am a mental health advocate and your grief guide. And my mission is to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. So deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. So thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Your Healing Journey live, right? And so on this live, we talk about grief and we talk about the journey of healing through your grief and some of the things that you may go through as a part of this cycle that you're on, or as a part of this season that you may be in of dealing with some type of loss. Usually we're talking about the loss of a loved one, but any type of loss, because grief doesn't care. I often say grief doesn't care. It doesn't care how old you are. It doesn't care how young you are. It doesn't care what color you are. It doesn't care, anything about you personally. All it cares about is itself. And grief can be attached to any kind of loss that you may experience, whether it's the loss of a loved one, loss of a job, loss of a pet, loss of a dream. Even that can be a loss, and we will talk a little bit about more of that on a different not podcast, but a different episode of Your Healing Journey Live. And so today I want to talk about religion. I want to talk about religion and grief, right? And some of the stages that we go through in our spiritual journey as we experience grief. Because a lot of times we before we go into grief or before we have experienced grief, oftentimes we think we know, or maybe we do know where we stand spiritually or religiously as far as our grief until we experience grief. Before when we're just kind of theoretically, moving along and saying, okay, if something was to happen that I end up having to grieve, then I'm going to act in this way, and I'm going to, carry myself in this way spiritually or religiously because this is how I plan to do it. But when you actually are facing grief, when you actually have lost someone, when you actually have found yourself in a space where you're grieving, then it's not so cut and dry, right? How you react or how you respond. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, because definitely growing up in the church and being a PK, for those that don't know what that means, a pastor's kid or a preacher's kid, growing up in church, when we talk about grief, dealing with grief, we talk about a lot of things in the church. The first round of defense is to pray, right? Which is definitely, as a spiritual person myself, definitely think that's wise. But that's not the only thing. And just knowing, just as I grew in the church and as I grew up spiritually, a lot of things were kind of pushed on prayer. You pray for everything, and prayer was the answer to everything. And prayer is an answer to everything, but it's not the only answer. And it may be a part of the answer, what that answer is. And so when we talk about grief and we talk about finding yourself in a space of grieving, prayer definitely is a part of the answer. Church itself as a community is definitely part of the answer. But there also is some natural parts of grief that you have to go through that you can't necessarily just pray away. There's that natural man that has to go through its stages for you to be able to heal correctly and spiritually when you're dealing with grief, right? And so I know that, when we first start off, we're open-minded of what that looks like. We're open-minded in, how we want to grieve spiritually, how we want to react. Again, we talk about prayer all the time, and that's like the first defense. But sometimes when we find ourselves in a moment of grief, we then begin to question sometimes even our own beliefs. We begin to question the beliefs that we've had all this time, the beliefs that we've been taught, the beliefs that we've been told, that we've been walking in all this time. Now we find ourselves kind of like, okay, do I really believe this, right? Do I really have the same amount of faith that I had before this loss? Because a lot of times, again, we're talking about prayer. So when someone gets sick, when a loved one gets sick, and they're going through these different stages of whatever the sickness is, of course we're praying then, and we're praying then, and we're calling, for deliverance then, and we're really expecting a healing to come in. And if that healing does not come, or it doesn't come in the way that we expected it to come, or the way that we wanted it to come, then oftentimes we find ourselves questioning the very beliefs that we've stood on our whole life, right? The very beliefs that, that God brings good and the bad. When we talk about the rain on the just as well as the unjust. And it's easy for us to say that. It's easy for us to stand in that when we're not the ones getting rained on, right? It's easy to say that God is a comforter when we're not the one that needs comforting, and so oftentimes we find ourselves, once we get into these, once we get into a position where we're facing loss, one of the first things that we do is we begin to question our faith, and sometimes even questioning God, right? First of all, we question our faith. That's because it's like, well, I have faith that they were going to get healed. I had faith that they were going to pull through. I had faith that this sickness or this circumstance wasn't unto death. And now that that person did pass and we're dealing with this loss now I'm questioning my faith. Like, did I have enough faith, or am I even having faith in the right thing? Or do I even want to continue believing in this faith that I have because I didn't get the answer that I wanted, right? And those are natural responses to grief, and a lot of times we find ourselves, especially when the communities that maybe we grew up in, the churches that we may have grew up in, may be ran by people who have all the best intentions, but hasn't necessarily been trained in grief and grief support. And so we fall into these beliefs, and even sometimes are made to feel bad if we say we are wavering in our faith now. If we say that, because I didn't get the outcome that I was believing for, now I'm kind of, second guessing my faith. And if those who are in charge or those who are supporting you in the faith have not been trained in grief, a lot of times they fall onto their normal natural thinking, and they may make you feel bad for how you're feeling, because you should always, in some cases, at their minds, have faith no matter what you're going through. And then they may even start to throw different scriptures at you, and that may not be what you need at that time. Again, it's natural to question your faith when you're believing for something, when you're believing for healing, when you're believing for something to work out a certain way, and it doesn't work out that way, right? It's only natural in the grieving process to begin to question your faith. Like, why do I believe this? And do I really want to continue believing that? It's a part of the cycle. And it's okay for you to even have those thoughts, because those are natural thoughts, right? And so no one should try to make you feel bad because now you're questioning your faith during your grieving period, because it's natural. And not only do we begin to question our faith, then we even begin to question God as well, right? Because it's like, God, why did you allow this to happen? God, why did you not answer my prayer? God, why did you do this to me? Or sometimes even we feel like God is punishing us sometimes for some things that we may have said or done, by allowing us to lose this loved one, by allowing us to lose this person. And I don't believe that that's the truth. I believe that, God does allow some things to happen, and something has to happen, just in the way of the world, just the way of life, and the way that things run. There are some things that have to happen naturally, and unfortunately, death is a part of the natural human process. And so losing someone to death, and grieving that person is a natural thing. It's a natural part of our existence that we have to deal with. And sometimes, again, we question God when it's our loved ones, or when it's someone that we love, and it's like, God, why did you do this to this person? And sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes we don't get the answer for that. Sometimes we won't get the answer until we are able to talk to God one-on-one, or face to face, of why our loved one had to go through certain things, or why those who we loved had to go through certain things, or those, even ourselves, why we had to go through certain things. Because again, grief doesn't care what your loss is, right? And so your loss could be a divorce, it could be a marriage, and so you may be questioning God, like, God, I prayed for my husband, I prayed for my wife, I prayed for this marriage, and I know what your word says, and I know the vows that we said in front of you and in front of the church, and all of that, and my marriage still fell apart. And so you're questioning God in that space, because it's like, God, I was believing on you. I was believing you to make this thing come out right, and it didn't. And so we begin to have these questions in our grieving process, and trying to figure out, where do we stand even in our faith? And it's a natural thing. It's a natural thing. And many of us question our faith, and some of us fall out of faith for a while because of that loss. And it's only as we continue, should I say, that grieving process, as we continue to give grief its process, and deal with grief and walk with grief, are we able to sort of come to terms with where we stand in our faith as we process the grief. That initial impact of grief will cause us to question some things, right? And so that's why we have to make sure we're taking our time with our grief, taking our time to walk through our grief, or walk with our grief. We're taking our time to process the grief that we have. Again, because even when we talk about the grief wheel, which I talked about prior, that grief wheel which is the all the emotions that you may go through when you're dealing with grief. And so if you think of grief as a pie that's cut into slices, each slice will represent a different emotion that you may feel on this grief wheel as this wheel turns. And that isn't only limited to how you feel personally around people and around your loss, but that goes to your faith as well. That goes with the questioning that you may have for God as well. So you may be angry with your faith. You may be upset in your faith. You may be sad in your faith. You may be confused in your faith, because you may, up until this point, you may have been a strong Christian. I'm a Christian, so let's say you may have been a strong Christian. You believe all the Christian values, and you believe all the sayings and all the prayers and all the scriptures, and now you're faced with this reality that you just experienced a loss, and you didn't think you would have to go through that as being a Christian, as being a believer, as being a strong member of your faith. You thought you were protected from this loss, which is, again, just a part of life. And so just because you are a Christian, just because you are, whatever religious identity that you identify with, just because you are a member of that does not mean that you are. It doesn't mean that you are exempt from feeling the courses of grief, right? And so again, when we talk about those emotions that you may be dealing with in the midst of your grief, you may be upset again in your faith. You may be angry in your faith. You may be disappointed in your faith, because again, you thought this was going to turn out a different way. You didn't think that this loss was going to be what it was, and so you're disappointed in your faith. And then again, it's also a reflection on God as you walk in your faith, and now you're asking God these questions that you normally would not ask, right? You're like, God, I believed in you. God, I called on you. God, I prayed on you. God, I served you, right? Especially those of us who have been, who have served in our religious institution, who have served, the people in church. You've been an usher, you've been a choir member, you've been a production team, you've been a dancer, whatever that was, but you served in the church and you served on these different boards, and you're like, God, not only did I believe in you, but I served as well. And I thought because of that, I was protected from this natural part of life. Even though it's a natural part of life, I still felt that I should have been or was protected at some point. And now that you are experiencing this loss, you begin to question God. And you begin to go through all of those emotions that's on the grief wheel, that you begin to have those emotions toward God as well, right? You may be upset with God. You may be sad with God. You may be disappointed with God. You maybe even be angry with God because you didn't get the outcome that you were hoping for, that you didn't get the outcome that you were praying for. But don't be shaken in your faith when this happens, because it's a natural part of the grief process, right? And so the only thing I will ask you to do, that in the midst of this process, in the midst of, especially in the initial phase of grief, when you're dealing with this grief and don't know where to place it in your faith, don't know where to place God in your faith, I would just ask that you hold on just to a little bit. Hold on the most that you can as you process your grief, as you go through the grief process, because the initial shock of loss, the initial hurt of loss, the initial impact of loss and grief is going to shake up your whole world. Not just what you believe as a religion, not just what you believe as a whether you're a Christian or whatever, whoever, however you identify religiously, it's not just going to affect that, but it's going to affect everything in your life. because grief touches everything when it comes. It doesn't just touch one thing. You may lose a loved one, but it doesn't only touch, your family. It doesn't only touch that loved one and the impact that that loved one had on your life, but it affects your life in other ways and other spaces as well. And so today, I just want to encourage you guys so that if you have experienced a loss, if you are on this grief journey and you begin to wonder and you begin to think about where you are in your faith walk, how do you want to even continue in your faith walk? I encourage you to hold on to your faith, because you're going to need your faith in the midst of this grief journey. You're going to need your faith in the midst of your mourning. You're going to need your faith as you move forward, right? And even though you may be feeling some type of way right now, as you begin to continue on this journey and heal with grief, then you'll realize how much that your faith comes into play, right? Again, you need that faith to have something to believe in. And I'll talk about this on another episode, finding that one thing that you need to hold on to, that one thing that you need to get you through a day, just one more day, finding that one thing. And that faith, your faith may be that one thing. And so you want to hold on to your faith, even if you're feeling some type of way, even if you're feeling discontent, even if you're feeling disappointed. Don't just throw your faith away, but just put it in your back pocket. Put it in your back pocket like it's your wallet for a while if you need to, or put it in your back pocket like it's a picture of a loved one that you had that you may have to take out every once in a while and just look at it, just to remind you that it's there, that your faith is there. And so I want you to just hold on to your faith, despite what you may be going through, despite what you're feeling, despite everything that's going on in your world. As you travel on this grief journey, hold on to your faith. Even if you just hold on to it in theory, because you may not want to lean on it. You may not feel like your prayers were answered, so you don't want to pray anymore. You might not feel like, the scriptures that you were standing on was solid enough for you because you experienced this loss. So maybe you don't want to read anymore. You don't want to read the scriptures anymore. You don't even know if you even believe anymore, right? It's all natural part of the grieving process. So if you are grieving and you're going through these different emotions, feeling these different emotions concerning your faith, upset that your faith, didn't come through the way that you thought it would, it's absolutely normal. It's absolutely normal. So I want you guys to continue to hold on to your faith and also to continue to hold on to God. Continue to hold on to God, to continue to, I know that you're feeling some type of way. I know that you may have some questions that you want answered. You may have some questions that you feel were answered, but maybe it was answered unjustly, and you don't know how you really feel towards God right now. But I would say, again, hold on to that faith, hold on to that belief that as you do the work, because it's really important that you do the work of walking through your grief and processing your grief. That's the only way you're going to get the answers that you want. If not, you're just going to stay in this space of confusion. You'll stay in this space of hurt. You'll stay in this space of anger sometimes, and you'll never be able to get the answers and the healing that you need if you're not processing your grief correctly, if you're not processing your grief continually, right? Because we talked about that grief wheel also being like a hamster wheel. And unfortunately, once we get on, we can't get off. And we're just running and running in place because that grief never leaves. We can't outrun it. We can't slow down and let it run up in front of us. Once we're on that grief wheel, we just have to be able to run with grief, walk with grief, live our lives with grief, because it never goes away. But it does get easier. And as we process our grief and we walk in our grief, it does get easier for us to bear. It does have its moments where, we're feeling happy, maybe we're feeling sad, but it does not cause us to break down because we've given grief its space. we've given grief the moment that it needs in order for it to process and help us to process as we go on this healing journey. So once again, I want to say thank you guys for coming in. Thank you guys for being a part of this healing journey that we're walking together through, right? And I want you guys to know we're definitely have some more things coming, but we're definitely going to be offering a lot more workshops and things concerning grief, as well as some other things. So I want to invite you guys to check out our Deal to Heal School for Living, our Deal to Heal School for Living, which is our community on the school platform, which helps us to further our mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with their problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill their purpose, including healing from the pain of grief and healing through that process of grief. So we have some workshops on grief. We have some workshops on maintaining your faith during your grief, because we talked about that today. So we have that workshop that is there. So there's a lot of different workshops, and even some workshops on, on purpose and success and things of that nature. So make sure you guys go check out the Deal to Heal School for Living on the school platform. You can scan the QR code over in the corner in order to check that out. The first 7 days is absolutely free. You guys can go there, check it out. Check out the workshops that are there. And if you decide to stay after the week, then it's only $27 a month. And each month you'll have access to a new workshop, as well as the free resources that is there. I think I have 3 or 4 ebooks that is there, and some other free resources that is there as well, that you guys can go and check out in the resources section when you go and check it out. So again, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the fourth episode of Your Healing Journey Live. Definitely these lives are on Facebook, they're on YouTube. I think we're also going to LinkedIn as well. Yes, the 4 Core, Thurin, thank you very much. The 4 Core is an ebook that I wrote for fathers and daughters, right? It's the 4 Core, so it's the 4 core values that every daughter should get from her father. That's one of the ebooks that is also available on the Deal to Heal School for Living program, or shall I say community, on the school community. That is also one of the free resources that is there to take advantage of getting that ebook as well. And there are some other ebooks. Forgiving Me is another ebook that we have from Males to Men, which is a male mentoring ebook that we have. So yes, thank you guys. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to do this every Tuesday and Thursday, if God say the same. Hopefully nothing else comes up. Last week we had to cancel, and then today we started a little late because of the maintenance people that had to come in and check on some things here. But we came and we made it, and we did what we said we were going to do. So even if we show up late, we're going to try our best to show up. So every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Time Zone, I will be going live with Your Journey Live. Your Healing Journey Live is what we are, where we are. And again, I just thank you guys for showing up for yourselves. I am Ernest James, mental health advocate and your grief guide. Until next time, you guys be blessed.